It's Tiffany Gaines, host of the Seekers podcast. I got straight out the bed, come downstairs. I still got do rag lines on my forehead. You know why I jumped out the bed? You can probably guess what I'm gonna talk about. I'm married. My wife, she don't like football. She thinks it's barbaric and it's an abomination. But I talked her into believing and watching Colorado football games. And my bride was up last night. The game started at 7:20 Pacific time, which was around 8 something Mountain time for Colorado Buffaloes. But it was late. The game was over with. My wife at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, she is prying her eyes open. She is trying to stay focused. And I have told her in the fourth quarter, they not gonna pull this one out, baby. She was upset with me. Told me I ain't believe. I looked at her, and in my head I was like, "You're right. I don't believe. I believe something else, but I don't believe. I don't believe they're gonna win this game." So I shrugged my shoulders, disappointed. I shrugged my shoulders. I go to sleep. I didn't think about it twice. About 6:20, she rolls over in her sleepy voice, and she says, "Baby," and I said, "Yes." And I'm thinking she's going to say, "My head's hurting, I need some water." She's going to ask me a question. She says to me, "I'm so upset about that game. Now you have upset my bride. You have upset my baby, Colorado. Y'all don't care. You don't know her. It's okay. That's okay. You don't have to. I do. And anybody that upsets my bride upsets me. And so I have to give you a thrashing, a whipping, a spanking, discipline you. I'm going to tell you about yourself yesterday." Now, I said this a few podcasts ago. Now, I believe Deion is an impact human. My eyes light up when I think about Deion being an impact human. He's an amazing human. He's an amazing motivator. I think he exudes the type of confidence that we all need to have in here to be who and where we want to be in life. But I also said, is it going to be too much though? Or you carrying some people along with you who do not believe as you do? Sometimes that can compromise the vision. Sometimes it compromises the plan and positioning of your vision if you are trying to bring folks along who do not believe as you do. Because that's a lot of pulling. That's a lot of horsepower to pull that many people behind you who don't exude the same 1000% confidence that you have in yourself. So listen, I know that a lot of these kids are not who Dion will have on the team next year. I know a lot of these kids don't believe and move as he does. He still talks about, you know, kids are not doing their jobs, and he labels coaches as well. And I've not listened to his press conference yet. Um, but he talked about, kids just not doing their jobs, not being on their assignments. He talks about high level recruits that are not yet playing because they won't invest in the discipline of practice, the discipline of watching film. And I'm gonna say something about that later. But the kids that are out there, there's something missing. And I said a few weeks ago, is it going to be too much? Are they going to be able to continue to shine with all of this glam, all of this glitz and glamour, all of this distraction? Last night, one of my favorite comedians was on the sideline, Cedric the Entertainer. I was excited, but I'm not playing. Anthony Anderson, somebody else I think is funny, great actor. Oh my goodness. I want to ask Anthony Anderson 1,000 questions, but I'm not on the sidelines playing. My point is everybody that's on that sideline with regard to kids, and I'm just talking about kids, not football players. I'm talking about kids. Or all of them mature enough to persevere through the distraction. You have kids who mean business with football and nothing else distracts them. They are about football. They love football. They want to be great at football. But clearly, a lot of the talent at Colorado isn't isn't that. A lot of the talent at Colorado isn't NFL talent. And so you have to motivate and build a lot of those players up. You have to tap inside their chest and pull something out that they didn't know that they had. But you also have a group of players who are talented enough to be where they are, but just not mature enough to persevere and sort of mature through the process. Last night, the same defense that pitched the shutout in the first half, that was the same group of players out there for the second half. The same offense that put up 29 points in the first half was the same offense that was out there in the second half. So, what is the difference? Penalties, all of that, I feel like it's lack of discipline. I feel like it's lack of maturity. It's not like there was a different group of guys. It's not like they swapped uniforms with a bunch of dudes in the parking lot and put those dudes on the field. What is the difference? 29 points on offense, no points on defense. The same guys showed up on the field. What was the difference? Were they too full of themselves? Did they think they were something that they were not? Did they just stop believing? Did they get lazy? I don't know. I feel like it was a little bit of all of that. I don't think Shador had a bad game. I think the offensive line, Cinderella dropped her slipper, and the offensive line wasn't protecting as much. I think maybe Shador wasn't getting rid of the ball as quick as he was in the first half. But the discipline just kind of folded its chairs, and they started putting away the chairs at the concert early. They folded up discipline, they folded up focus, and it showed in the second half. Meanwhile, Stanford, I don't know what their coaches said to them in the second half. I don't know. But I think once they scored, and once they got 14, once Stanford got 14, it was like, uh-oh. Stanford was, and it was the third quarter, and they had 14 points. Easy. Uh-oh. We got something going here. Meanwhile, Colorado was still folding up the chairs. They were clearing out the arena after the concert. They were pulling up that paper that they have on the floor so you don't damage the floor in the concert. Maybe that's too old school. I don't know if they still do that anymore because concerts are too expensive these days. And I don't go to too many. But they were sweeping up. In their minds, they were sweeping up after the concert. They thought it was over with. We got this. But what they didn't realize, and this is what I said about college football, scoring happens so quickly because everybody is not NFL talent. And so the talent on each of these teams is not, all of them are not NFL fast. You got NFL caliber players out there, but everybody's not an NFL caliber player, right? The NFL, that's the mecca, that's the platform. So everybody can play. Everybody in college can't play. So scoring happens quickly. You got your talented athletes who can put it on at any point in time. 29 points in the half. Okay, that happened with a Miami game this year, but that does not happen often in the NFL. College is a different game. Scoring can happen quickly. And it was like they didn't have the maturity enough to realize, uh-oh. When Stanford started saying, uh-oh, Colorado just said, all right, man, you going to get that row? They kept their chairs of discipline folded. They didn't even bring their pride back out of the locker room. It was something to watch, and I think it was something they had coming. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where the truth is exposed. I think a lot of things have to be reevaluated. Do you have a bunch of players on that team who can't handle a lot of distraction that goes on? Because sometimes you have to be in a quiet room to focus. Everybody can't focus and listen to music. My stepdaughter, she will play music in her head while she does homework. I can't do that, especially if I'm doing math. And I think a lot of people think that they can do that and think that they can still be productive, think that they won't miss. I listen to podcasts and things like that while I'm working. But when it's something where I know I have to concentrate, there's some things that I can multitask. But when it is page and line designations and I have to designate page 3, line 15 through 19, I turn everything off because now I need to focus. This is what I need to get correct. I cannot, I cannot multitask on certain things. And I think a lot of the players on Colorado, they think that they can multitask. Shadur may be able to multitask. Shiloh may be able to multitask. Travis Hunter can clearly multitask. But can a lot of those players multitask? And I mean multitask, maintain a place of success, maintain success, and keep your discipline. And I don't know if a lot of them can multitask like that. I think sometimes they can be disciplined, sometimes they can have success. But I don't think everybody has the same level of maturity and belief system standard for discipline, standard for success as Shadur, as Dion. And so you get caught up in the flash. Sometimes you get caught up in thinking that you're something that you're not. Because you see all of this around you. This is about us. This is about me. This is about us. And you lose precision. You lose focus. You missed that tackle. You weren't paying attention. You were not invested emotionally, mentally. Sometimes you have to quiet the room to really put out your best writing product, your best music performance. You know, Sometimes artists work great in the middle of the night when nobody's around. It's when they do their best work. You can't tell me all of these 18 and 19-year-olds can handle all of that flash on the sideline that Dion is, that Colorado is. I'm not saying Dion should change who he is, but I'm saying there's got to be some serious recruiting evaluation. You've got to you got to be a bit more careful with your selection process, interview process. What do these players want? What do these guys want? What's their end goal? Right? There are going to be a lot of guys who want to come for the flash and excitement, Lil Wayne, the access that Colorado's going to bring. A lot of players are about that access, but they're not about that life, right? There are some recruits who want to be in the NFL and that is their goal. Um, and there's some kids who can play football and have great talent who just want to be around some shit. Those are the players, those are the kids who are going to lack discipline and cost you some football games. Yesterday was all about discipline. That was about chip, that was about ego, that was about shrugging shoulders, that was about putting up your chairs before the concert was over. And that was about a wife who doesn't watch football who was sorely disappointed. Her feelings was hurt. I've been watching football for a long time. I didn't got my feelings hurt a lot, and I pulled my emotions out early. Once I see it going bad, I pull my emotions out. I got to save myself. But she believed until the very end. Poor thing. And so I said to her this morning, what I think now. Now I feel like the recruiting landscape. There's a blueprint created. There's a different blueprint created last night. Now, depends on the player you want to recruit. If you want to recruit a player, Deion still can win the room. And there's just no competition with his charisma. I don't know. Deion can win a mom, but the dads, right? I have a friend whose son right now is being recruited for college, and he's got a couple of scholarships on the line, right? And they are heavily invested in him playing professional football. I know that the Stanford coach, Dan Lanning, the coaches that have beat Deion could absolutely recruit my friend's nephew. Because why? Because he wants his son to win. He wants his son to get to the NFL. He is not interested in his son with all of the flash and the razzle dazzles around him, he would look at last night and say, I don't want my son to experience that. I want my son to go someplace where he can showcase his talent, where he can invest and see some winning. Yeah. The coaches who have beat Dion can walk into a living room and say, listen, I can't compete with who that man is. He's an amazing human being. If they're smart, they'll at least say that. He's an amazing human being. And he's got a lot of excitement going on at that school. But here's what I can tell you. We're gonna win. Your son's gonna be a winner. Your son's gonna be coached up to be an excellent football player. There's not gonna be any distractions to keep him from being that. Right? A father who's invested in his son, or a mother, not just fathers, a mother who's invested in their son getting to the 1%, the NFL, last night, mm-mm. They were looking at the Stanford coach kneeling down, calmly calling plays, and picking at the ego, or the lack of ego, the lack of discipline of a football team. Tore them apart, picked them apart. Lack of discipline, lack of effort. He picked them apart. That coach, the 1-4 Stanford Cardinal, picked them apart. Yeah. There's a dad that was looking at that and said, no, they're not winners. No, I don't want my son around that distraction. Or my son doesn't need to be around that distraction, because there are parents who know that their kids won't thrive in that environment. There are parents who know that their kids who won't do well in that environment. There are parents who know that their kids need to be away from something like that. They need focus. They need discipline. They need a quiet room to thrive. They need a quiet room to study and focus and excel. And so Dion's going to have to win that. I don't doubt that he can, because I know that he's going to do his best to get a different talent level around his son, the quarterback, the offensive line. They gave up, but so did the defense. That was terrible. That was a letdown. It exposed some things. It revealed some things. And I don't know if it motivated anything in those guys. I'm not sure. I have no idea. How would I know, right? But I'm curious. Did it say some things? Because, there are guys, Trayvon Diggs, not Trayvon Diggs. I'm sorry. That's Dallas Cowboys. Stephon Diggs, Buffalo Bills. I don't care what people say about Stephon Diggs and how he gets angry. Stephon wants to win. I don't care. Throwing tablets. I wish he wouldn't do it so much, because there's already a narrative set about he and Josh Allen, because Josh Allen always has to answer questions about that. But he wants to win. Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, he's 7'11". He says he's always motherfucking open, and he says, excuse my language, wants to win. When you lose, you're sore, not physically from the game, but you're sore in your mind and in your emotions because you lost. I don't know how much was that going on in Colorado's locker room. I'm sure Shador felt that way. I'm sure he was pissed off that he lost, right? I'm sure Travis Hunter was pissed off that he lost. But Travis Hunter, Dion, if he's your best player on defense, you got to save him at some point for games like this. He was worn out. He'd been out 3 weeks. And to have him come in and play every snap, I know you did it because you were desperate and you needed him. And at one point, I think he got injured and they told him to sit out, but they pulled him back in because the Cardinal was rolling down the field on him, called him back in the game. Number 13 for Stanford, to have 300 yards, or almost 300 yards and a half, sir, that excellent game. Yeah, exposed some things. There are some things I love about women. When my wife, when the house is sick and she's sick too, and she just turns into a hero mom. She is fixing soups, she's making teas, and she's sick too, but she doesn't even think about how she's feeling, and she's taking care of me. She's taking care of our daughter. And I just look at her and wonder, and it's like moms who take care of the house, the kids, and they just are mom heroes. Yeah, man, you look at that and you just shake your head like, wow, that is amazing. right? I'm married to a woman, but my wife and I think the same thing about men. We love the awesome things about men, right? That when the man shows and the man exudes and he just rides on his pride and nothing is shake, he's fearless. You see men do men like things. Wasn't a lot of that on that field last night. You know, when a man is mad and he moves things, he moves furniture, he moves emotional furniture, mental furniture to get something done. This needs to happen right now. I'm not going to let this happen, right? I'm not letting somebody come in my home, harm my family. That sort of protector thing, they weren't protecting last night. They weren't protecting their homestead last night. Somebody came in and took all of your furniture out your house. They stole everything. You know, you left your money out on the table, they took that. But you left your money out on the table. You were not protecting your house. You left your door open. A cardinal came in, looked around. They started just picking up furniture. First, they took a couple of things out. They got away with it. They came back in and said, oh, they didn't woke up. Nobody came downstairs. Well, let's see what else we can take out of here. You know, well, let's see if we can get that TV out there off that wall. They took the TV off the wall. Big old beautiful TV too. 85-incher. They went in your refrigerator. They cleaned you out. And by the time you woke up, your house was empty. That's what happened. The men were not guarding the door last night. The young men were not guarding the door last night. I don't know what the coaching staff needs to do differently. I have no idea. But I just watched Dion on that sideline. He looked helpless. He couldn't do anything. His coordinators, his offensive defensive coordinators, I guess they're carrying out his vision as best they can. I mean, I guess he's consulting with them, but they're calling the game. I mean, even I think there was it seemed like he got a little snappy. One of the players got a little snappy with Deion last night on the sideline, number 23. But they broke in your house. They didn't even break in. You left the door open. The Stanford Cardinal, you left the door open. They came in and cleaned your house out. And at one point in the game, you came down and you saw them. You came downstairs and you saw them picking up your furniture and walking out the door with it. But, and this is what I want to say too. You can't coach and motivate every player the same, Dion. Now, I'm not saying that you should compromise your rules and your standards, but there's some players that Deion won't play. And he says it's for practice reasons, film, discipline. He won't play them. But I don't know if you have to instill an attitude of winning. Maybe you can coach those kids through winning. Maybe you can coach them through playtime, because you can't motivate all your kids the same way. Sometimes you have to figure it out. If they're not getting the fact that they're not playing with their toys because they need to do something else, maybe you give them the toy for a little while, right? Give them the toy. Let them see what it feels like to have the toy, to have the access, to have the playing time. Then maybe you can coach and discipline through that, because that's clearly how they were bred, and maybe that's their disciplinary pattern. They don't know how to earn it first, and sadly this generation just is like that. They don't really know what it means to earn. They just have access to, and so they are entitled. And so you have to understand the culture and the time and of the generation that you're in. Dion's old school, and old school coaching gets to be outdated coaching at some point in time. I'm not saying compromise everything about your belief system, but there's got to be an innovative way to compromise based on the talent that you have. You have to overcompensate sometimes. Sometimes you have to give the food first, put the carrot out there. Taste this. Taste what this is like. Taste what it's like being out there on the field. Taste what it's like to have the success. Right? Now, can I help you now enhance that? Let's get in the film room. Let's see what we can do better based on the raw talent that you have, based on the potential that you have, based on the success that you've had. Now, what can we do to make you better? Right? Maybe you've got to do it that way, because the kids that were out there last night didn't deserve to stay out there the entire game. They didn't. There was some little substitutions, but not impactful. You had Travis Hunter on fumes. And if Travis Hunter playing both ways was your best option, then you didn't have many options. And so I feel like there's got to be some reevaluation. Press passes for the next few games ain't none. No Anthony Andersons, no stars, unless you are here like a Warren Sapp, like a Michael Irvin, and you're trying to help out, like player wise, because I feel like they can deal with athletes. But stars, that's different. You know what I'm saying? Kevin Garnett, y'all don't play football. Paul Pierce, you don't play football. What can you offer my guys? If Shannon Sharp wants to be down here working with my receivers, Michael Irvin, T.O., okay, y'all helping out. We just coaching, right? We helping out. We motivating. We consulting. But the rest of you guys, ain't no sideline passes, no Lil Waynes, none of that. None of that. Some of the distraction I think needs to be removed because everybody isn't mature enough to look into the eyes, to look into the eyes of the sun like that. The limelight might be too much. Everybody isn't there for the same reason. Everybody didn't have the same vision. Until you can get on one accord with your vision across the board, you might have to do some things a little differently. And I believe that there are going to be a lot of coaches, like my friend's nephew's father, who are going to want their son to win. And they are not interested in that flash because guess what? In 3 years removed from high school, my son can have access to this flash. He can get it if he wants to. He doesn't have to have it at college. He don't need that. I want my son to win. Where can I send my son to win? Last night, Stanford, those boys walked away with something. They lost 3 games in a row. They walked away with some pride. They walked away with some confidence. And kudos to them. And I was not mad that Stanford won that game. They earned that. And and Colorado got that ass whipping they had coming. Sometimes your kids do too much, and you keep telling them sit down, sit down, sit down, and then something happened to them, and they say, I told you, I told you. Sometimes you don't even have to discipline the kid. The universe just does it for them. And it's like, didn't I tell you? I told you to stop doing that. Now look at you. That's exactly what happened last night. And there are a lot of spouses like mine who were upset this morning. My baby woke up. She was upset. Polar thing, cutest little thing in the morning time. Y'all don't know what she looked like. Well, you could. If you looked at my other videos, you'd know exactly what she looks like. But anyway, she is not a football fan. But she believing. But anyway, I think there needs to be some restructure, some removal of press passes. You had the athletic director down there looking like Jerry Jones. He had his jacket on. Colorado's busting at the seams. Man, I'm excited for the university. But I want to see these kids win. I want to see Deion win. The end goal for me is for Deion to win because that is what's going to deliver the message to the next level. That is what's going to deliver the message to these other schools, these other athletic directors. Yeah, you can bring all of that, but can you get kids to buy in enough to win? That is the end goal for me. I don't want to see another Dion on the sidelines of other colleges just with a bunch of razzle dazzle and a bunch of players who can't perform, who are distracted by it all. The end goal is to win. I know that's Dion's end goal, but do you have the right players to deliver that vision? And you got to be careful recruiting somebody. I want to come. Yeah, but what's your disciplinary package like, sir? And I imagine next year will be the real test. We'll see the real impact of Deion's recruiting. We'll see the real impact, the real impact, the real transformation will be next year. This is just what he worked with this year. But I'm going to be watching next year and I want to see, right? Because all of the number 1 recruits, they're not going to Colorado. I mean, so they might not be able to outcharm some parents, but hey, I beat him, ma'am, sir, young man. I did beat Mr. Sanders, Coach Prime. Remember that Stanford game? Remember the USC game? Remember the Oregon game? We did win those games. What do you want your son to be? Standing by Cedric the Entertainer? Or in the pocket throwing some passes in the NFL? Do you want to see him as a corner covering the best receiver in the NFL? Right? Got to ask yourself that. So, anyway, those are my thoughts on the game last night. What did y'all think? Wow, this was a long one. So, yeah, please like, please subscribe. Tiffany Gaines Seekers Podcast. I'm out. Appreciate it.